All right, we're here at Hancock Stadium with Oakwood native Cameron Lee, NFL draft hopeful. First of all, just take me through growing up in Oakwood. Three-sport athlete for Oakwood, right?
Yes, sir. I mean, growing up in Oakwood was awesome. Small town, so everyone knew you. Everyone knew what was going on with you, and playing three sports was kind of a given. You didn't really have much of a choice. With there's not that many people at the school and not that many people to play the sports. So
why football?
I had never played football until high school. I didn't actually wasn't super serious about it. I actually had I considered running cross country. My dad was the coach. I was a lot smaller at the time, but I was big enough that people were like, "Hey, big people in small towns play football." So I gave it a shot, and here I am now.
And so, how'd you end up here at Illinois State?
Coming out of high school, I didn't have any big offers to play football at all. Illinois State and Indiana State both invited me to walk on, and I thought Illinois State was a better choice for me.
And so, being a walk-on, that means that much work.
Yeah.
Than the scholarship players. So what was your mindset when you came here?
When I got here, I was 16th out of 16 on the depth chart at the offensive line position, and I knew that. But the coach at the time, who was from Tuscola, and he was the one that sort of recruited me and convinced me to come here, he said to me, it's going to be a long uphill battle, but we think you have unlimited potential. We believe in you, and if you put in the work, you can make something happen. So I've always enjoyed a challenge, and that's the way I viewed it. Every day was just a challenge and an opportunity to get better, and I've embraced it. And
being a walk-on and working so hard to get that starting position your final 2 years, how's that helped you now in preparing for the NFL?
I think the big thing that's prepared me for it is going into this process knowing that you can be anywhere on the depth chart or in the scout's eyes. It's not everyone's going to be the first round pick, and so you can have success no matter where you started at. So that's the big thing for me, is that it's taught me a lot, not only as a football player but as a person, and just being mentally tough and being persistent. I believe that I can overcome anything, and so that's a big part of this for me, is the journey.
When did you feel like the NFL was in reach?
See, that for me, I've always been very confident. I've always thought, I could play in the NFL, but that was, a young kid. The mature part of me, I took a little bit of time, took a little bit more time, because when you're at the bottom of the depth chart and you look up and you see all those guys playing and you think, man, I can't do that. I'm not sure that I can do that. It was harder for me. So I would say probably not until probably just about when my first year starting, because up until that point, I think I was relatively unknown on the team, let alone, anywhere else. Yeah. So yeah, I think when I became a starter here and we were having success, that's when it sort of clicked for me that maybe I had a future here. So
how does it feel now that you go to the combine, you got scouts talking about you, he's a sleeper offensive lineman in the draft? How's that feel?
It feels like all the hard work that I've put in, and this long journey's been worth it. It just feels like, at the beginning of everything, I'm not sure that you could have predicted this. You couldn't have seen this coming. But to be here and to be having this opportunity, it just feels like all this has been worth it.
What was it like getting that letter that you were invited to the NFL Combine?
So I got it was an email, and I got it. I was in Indianapolis at the time, and I was training with a bunch of guys who all had the same hope. Everyone wants to get to that point. Everyone wants to have that invite, but I was in the very last wave of people who got invited. So, and I think that comes from being from a smaller school and not having as much attention. So I had kind of written it off. Like, what? That's for big shots. That's not me. I'm going to go under the radar, and I'm excited to do that. I'm excited to prove people wrong. And so I'd taken on that mindset, like I'll just be an underdog. And then I got the invite, and it was almost like I had to completely shift my mindset. So I had accepted that role, and so then I was obviously excited, very excited, but just a complete mindset shift. But I was thrilled.
How much more real did it make things?
It made it incredibly, it was just incredible. Just the feeling of like, hey, you're now one of the top offensive linemen in the country, and NFL scouts recognize that. I couldn't even explain that.
Then going to the combine, kid from Oakwood, walks on at Illinois State, gets invited to the NFL Combine, participates in the Combine. What's that like?
I'm smiling just thinking about it. It's honestly, it's a dream, man. I don't know that I couldn't have written a better story. It's what it says to me is that, like I was saying, hard work pays off, and if you really have a vision and a dream, and you put in the work and you do the right things, like, man, anything could happen. And I'm just so lucky.
Talking a lot about the combine here, but what was it like performing on that stage with scouts from 32, every NFL team there on national TV? Were you nervous?
Oh, I was very nervous. I mean, I had a little bit of experience with like that similar setting because I'd played in the All-Star game a couple weeks before that, and so there's 32, scouts from every single team there. So I had a little bit of experience with it, but there's nothing like when you walk out. I'd never been to an NFL game, so then I walk into Lucas Oil Stadium, and you look up in the stands, and I mean, it's dead silent in there. For one, there's no one talking. It's not like a game. It's a dead silent arena filled with NFL executives and scouts and coaches, and you're looking around at all of your competition. I mean, like it's indescribable. But just to be in that moment and it was so much pressure, but it was almost like exciting. It made me feel better, like I was going to be better because of it.
How'd you perform?
I think I did well. I mean, I didn't go into it planning on winning the combine. I wasn't going to set any records, and I knew that. And I don't know that everyone sort of understands the dynamic of the combine, And they might look at that and say, "Oh, Cameron was the 12th best at this. He didn't do very well." That wasn't me. I'm not a tester. I'm a football player, and I knew that. I think I went in and I showed that I belonged, and that's really all I wanted to do, And maybe that sounds like I'm not being competitive about it. Yeah. I think I'm very competitive. I just realized that that's a short-term thing. I'm looking long-term, and my goal was to go there and to show NFL executives that I belonged and that I was just as good as the guys from LSU and Alabama, and I think I did that.
After the combine and up until now, what have scouts been saying?
So since the combine, once you meet with the teams and you've done all your workouts and you've done your pro days, it's sort of there's not much you can do anymore, So I've spoken with scouts. I spoke with 4 teams this week, and they're all saying, sort of the same thing because it seems like there's everyone's got the same idea of me. Cameron could go in the late rounds. If not, he'll be undrafted, and that's okay. So everyone it's almost like a recruiting pitch. It's like they switch positions on you. They're like, hey, if we don't draft you, would you want to come to this team? And of course, like I walked on here, I'll go anywhere, you know what I'm saying? So, but yeah, so it's interesting because they talk to you and they try and build you up, and they're saying, we'd love to take you, we could take you here, but, and so you got to be prepared for anything, and I'll be fine with whatever opportunity I have.
You just mentioned some are saying late rounds undrafted. Is that kind of where you're expecting?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I'm prepared for, but like, I've heard as high as the 4th round. I'm not holding my breath on that, and I understand how the process works. My agent keeps telling me, scouts keep telling me, coaches keep telling me, anything can happen on draft day, and I understand that. So, I would love to go as high as the 4th, 5th, 6th, whatever. I mean, a 7th round even, but I'm prepared. Like I said, I was a walk-on. I'm prepared for anything, and I think going undrafted is the NFL equivalent of being a walk-on. So I'm ready for whatever.
Is there one team that you would like to play for more than another?
I get this question all the time, and truthfully, I wasn't like a huge NFL fan growing up, so I didn't have a team. I mean, I always claimed the Tennessee Titans, which throws people off, but I want to go anywhere. I just want to play. This opportunity is, enough, so I can't be picky.
So what are your draft day week plans? It's a 3-day event. What are you going to do?
Day 2, I'm going to the Garth Brooks concert. Because I've been told I'm a day 3 guy, and that's fine. I figure best case scenario, if I happen to go on day 2 and an NFL GM calls me and says, Cameron, is that Friends in Low Places in the background? That's a heck of a story. So I would love for that to be the case. But my plan is to move back home sometime early on next week and take it easy and, spend the draft with my family, be near the phone at all times, but I'm not I'm not throwing some big party. I'm not inviting everyone over. I'm not going to try and build this up to anything more than it is. I might get drafted and I might not. And that's okay, either way.
Cameron Lee off the field.
Yeah.
What were you like growing up? You were a three-sport athlete. What else did you do?
Truthfully, growing up, I don't know that I did anything else other than play sports. I was hyper competitive, and was always trying to find something to compete about. As I've gotten older, I've learned that I can't always be competitive, so I've tried to mellow out a little bit more, and I don't know, I've tried to take on some different hobbies. But
the Twitter sphere, I've seen your Twitter machine is pretty on point. Or is that something you're proud of?
I appreciate that. I take a lot of pride in my Twitter game. My girlfriend doesn't think that my Twitter game is as strong as I do, but I like to think that I'm a pretty good tweeter.
For those that don't know, what's your handle?
Comeback Cam.
You graduated in December, political science. So is that kind of your fallback? What do you want to use that for?
Truthfully, I don't study politics. I didn't study politics with the intention of treating it like government. I didn't want to learn about presidents and senators. I wanted to use politics as a skill set, learning how to communicate with people, and to work things in my favor, to get things done, and so I used politics as a skill. So I don't necessarily have a career planned through politics. Maybe that's something in the future. I've always talked about something like that, but I really want to be an entrepreneur, and I've got some ideas that I'd like to put into action, but that's a long way down the road.
So say you don't get drafted, you do get signed, but you don't make that roster, you get cut after fall camp or something, what would you do?
I was a leasing agent in college. Okay. And I would like to become a full real estate broker and start my own land development company.
For those kids in Oakwood or another small town in central Illinois that watch this and see this and hear, hey, he was a walk-on in college, didn't have any offers, and now he's going to hopefully be in the NFL, what's your message to those kids?
If you believe in something, if you believe in something and you put in the work and you make the right decisions, it's all about decisions. Decisions compile on top of one another. So if you have the right approach, the right focus, and you do the right things, the sky's the limit, and I firmly believe that, but it's all about doing the right things day after day after day after day, and never hit the snooze alarm.